everyone, welcome to our Education Finance Update. I'm Carol Barclay, one of the Senior Finance Partners at AVEC Partnership.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Thompson, one of the Lead Finance Partners at AVEC Partnership. Carol and I will be providing your school or trust with key finance updates and considerations for the summer term. In particular, during this session we'll be discussing 21-22 budget and medium-term financial planning, the importance of integrated curriculum and financial planning, the ongoing financial impact of COVID-19 and some other financial considerations.
Please also remember, to accompany this update, we've also produced an action checklist. Please download a copy of this checklist as it is intended as a helpful guide for senior employees to allow you to easily identify the actions and key priorities that you should consider to help prepare for the summer term. All schools and academies should have by now received their 21-22 funding allocation notifications from either the appropriate local authority or from the ESFA. These should be checked for accuracy in terms of mapping the pupil numbers on which these allocations are based back to the October 2020 census return. Funding for 21-22 continues to be devolved to local authorities based on the national funding formula values. The ongoing delay in moving towards a hard national funding formula, however, means that for 21-22 and 22-23, local authorities have once again retained the flexibility to set local formula, therefore determining the method of distribution of the funding that schools and academies actually receive. The DfE plans to consult during the coming months on how best to move towards a hard national funding formula, ensuring that all school budgets are based on the same formula which draws on school and pupil needs and characteristics. You are therefore encouraged to watch out for this consultation and to participate wherever possible.
Also of note is that funding previously received through the Teachers' Pay and Teachers' Pension Employer Contribution grants have been added to the formulaic allocations in 21-22 by increasing the minimum per pupil funding by £180 per primary pupil and £265 per secondary pupil. In August 20, the Department for Education announced that, in line with their academy counterparts, maintained schools must produce a 3-year budget plan, effective from the 1st of April 21. For academies, unlike last year, there is no relaxation of the requirement to provide multi-year budget plans to the ESFA. It should be noted, however, that the Budget Forecast Return Outturn and the Budget Forecast Return 3-year will be combined into one online form which is to be submitted by the 27th of July this year.
All schools and academies are faced with a challenge in terms of predicting future levels of funding in medium-term financial plans. As well as predicting your pupil numbers, you'll need to estimate future funding levels. Increases to core school funding allocations announced by central government for 21-22 included an overall 3% per pupil funding increase, and a similar overall increase in 22-23 is planned. However, actual funding increases in future years will need to be modelled on a school-by-school basis, and your estimates will need to reflect not only per pupil funding but also account for school-level allocations, pupil profiles, minimum funding guarantees, and the funding formula decisions made by your local authority.
On the 2nd of March this year, the DfE launched a consultation around changes to the method of calculation of the sparsity factor in the national funding formula in 22-23. Key discussion points include measuring sparsity distances by road journeys rather than as the crow flies, therefore reflecting actual distances between schools in rural locations, and to increase the maximum sparsity factor values by £10,000 across all phases. The guidance document states that 1,200 schools and academies attract sparsity funding in 21-22, and, had the new proposals been in place, this number would have increased to 2,100. Although this funding represents a small proportion of the funding available for schools, it should be noted that additional sparsity funding will be drawn from the existing resources. It's not additional funding. The consultation closes on the 9th of April this year.
Back in November last year, as part of the spending review, the government announced a public sector pay freeze for 21-22 for all staff earning above £24,000 and a £250 per year increase for lower paid workers. The pay freeze is binding on the school teachers' pay and review body, but non-binding on local authorities. Academy colleagues should, if they have not already done so, liaise with boards of trustees to ensure a decision is made, and maintain schools should liaise with their local authority. Whilst the pay freeze, effective for 1 year from April 21, has a potential savings impact on school and academy budgets, decisions will need to be made around including estimated uplifts to support staff pay awards with effect from April 2022 and teachers' pay awards from September 2022.
On the 1st of February this year, the DfE announced that Pupil Premium per pupil rates would remain unchanged for the financial year 21-22. However, from the 1st of April this year, Pupil Premium allocations will be calculated based on the number of eligible pupils recorded in the October 20 census rather than the January 21 census. Care should be taken to assess the impact of this change. Many of our clients are reporting downward shifts in Pupil Premium funding. Isn't that right, Carol?
Yes, that's right, Michelle. And, as always, it's really important to make sure eligibility checks have been carried out and pupil eligibility is accurately recorded on the school's pupil information system in order to maximise the funding which the school receives. Pupil numbers should be refreshed regularly and new, reasonable projections based on the most up-to-date pupil data should be produced. It's now a requirement of the Academy's financial handbook that trustees review and challenge the pupil number projections that underpin revenue projections on a termly basis. This will ensure that any financial impact as a result of pupil number changes will be highlighted in a timely manner, enabling well-planned remedial action to take place.
Integrated Curriculum and Financial Planning, ICFP, is a process that enables schools to deliver the best curriculum within the context of available resources and to maximise financial efficiency. It is a planning activity that uses key metrics to support decision making. The DfE have put increasing emphasis on the need for academies and schools to integrate their curriculum and financial planning through requirements such as the completion of school resource management checklists and self-assessment. ICFP is considered of such importance to the DfE that its introduction has been made a condition of a number of grants. We would encourage school and academy colleagues to introduce and embed an ICFP approach.
We recommend that all key budget assumptions, along with areas of financial opportunity and risk, are documented in a detailed narrative report for governors and trustees. This will enable governing bodies and boards of trustees to more effectively perform their duties in line with the Scheme for the Financing of Schools and the Academy's financial handbook. This budget narrative report will increase the knowledge and understanding of both governors and trustees and will encourage appropriate challenge both during the budget setting process and at key budget monitoring points during the financial year.
You should continue to monitor the potential financial impact of the pandemic on your school or academy budget. Additional costs and the reduction of certain income streams may have a detrimental effect on your budget. Last year, additional funding was available to support some COVID-related costs, and many schools saved money in the first lockdown on energy, supply staff and teaching resources costs. This was, in some cases, offset by the loss of income relating to the hire of premises, catering and sports facilities and additional investment in IT in an attempt to limit the impact of disruption to pupils' education. This year, DfE has stated that it anticipates that schools will typically be able to implement the measures set out in their guidance within their existing resources, so no further funding for additional costs incurred as a result of the pandemic is expected to be made available, and, as a result, these costs and any lost income will need to be met by redirecting existing resources. Also, the Workforce Fund for Schools, which was launched by the DfE in December, included a list of prerequisite criteria which resulted in very few schools and academies being eligible to claim. To ensure service continuity during and after the coronavirus pandemic, schools were advised to support their at-risk suppliers to ensure business and continuity and to protect jobs. Where this has been the case in your school and you have agreed to any form of supply relief, you should work in partnership with the supplier to plan an exit from the agreed interventions and transition to a new, sustainable operating model as soon as possible. This may include varying or even terminating the contract in some circumstances if it is decided that a contract is either no longer relevant or sustainable.
Closing on the 5th of May 2021, the Department for Education has launched a consultation which seeks views around a proposal to centralise the payment of business rates for state-funded schools from 22-23. This would have no actual financial impact on school and academy budgets, but would introduce a system whereby the ESFA would pay schools' business rates directly to billing authorities on behalf of schools, removing the need for schools and academies to make these payments to billing authorities themselves, and for academies to reclaim costs from the ESFA. You are therefore encouraged to submit your views. As described previously, the importance of multi-year budget planning and accurate and timely pupil projections cannot be underestimated. At key points during the financial year, it is considered imperative that close liaison between the school's finance and HR professionals takes place, enabling well-timed decisions around staffing structures to be prioritised.
We actually think the relationship between HR and finance professionals is one of the most important in the budget cycle, and our HR colleagues, Jane and Pam, will explain the importance of timely intervention where staffing structures require change. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in contact with us, or alternatively, you can raise any queries at our next live Q&A session on the 20th of April. Thank you for watching.